That's yes. Mhm. You can take an opening comment. Just a few. Yeah, just a few. And then I turn it right. Okay, let me know. Yeah, that's fine. He's got me doing this in essence, so I'll turn it right to you. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna bring welcome and then I'll. You're gonna do this part right here? Yes. Not the same word for word. Okay, got it. All I have to do is move away from the podium for this then. Worship Brother Scott, are we at a? Do you want me to go ahead and start? Bless, thank you. Brethren, ladies and guests, my name is Ethan Seberg, past Grand Master of Masons in Minnesota, and it is my great privilege to welcome you to the 169th installation of Grand Lodge officers of the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Minnesota. Thank you so very much for joining us today, and I will immediately turn the gavel over to a dear friend of mine, Most Worshipful Brother Jim Christensen, past Grand Master of Masons of Minnesota.
As in all important events, let us start with a word of prayer. Will everybody please rise? Let us pray. Grand Chaplain.
Eternal source of life and light, we humbly implore thy divine favor upon this occasion and upon the institution in whose service we are engaged. Bless the Grand Lodge and its subordinates and all of the brotherhood wherever dispersed. Make Freemasonry yet more helpful and beneficent to our race, and inspire all who are connected with it with an ardent love to thee, to each other, and to every member of the human family. Bless now these servants who are about to assume a new and important relationship with brethren. Give us wisdom, give us strength, give us love, that we may serve in brotherly love while we serve this year in the Grand Lodge of Minnesota. To thee, O God, do we put our trust. Be thou our friend, conductor, and guide through all of the vicissitudes of life, and at last receive us to thyself to dwell in thy presence forevermore. Amen.
So mote it be. Everybody, please be seated. Would the area deputies, both local and remote, please rise? Worshipful brothers, it is your duty to represent the Grand Master in your respective areas. You are the liaison between the Grand Master and the district representative in all matters concerning the lodges in your area. You are to coordinate with the district representatives to assist the lodges in your area to implement the programs of the Grand Lodge and facilitate the success of the lodges in your care, as well as substitute for them when they're unavailable. You may be seated. Would the district representatives, both local and remote, please rise? Worshipful brothers, you're appointed as district representatives in your various districts. Your duties require a thorough knowledge of our Masonic code, programs of the Grand Lodge, and a dedication to Masonic tenets and teachings. You are to work to support and assist the Lodge in implementing and improving programs and communications, to inspect the Lodge building and properties, and to make the necessary reports to your area deputy, and to perform such other duties as the Grand Master may from time to time request. Worshipful brothers, you may be seated. Would the custodians, both local and remote, please rise. Worshipful brothers, it is your duty to be certain that each area of the Grand Lodge of Minnesota hold at least one school of instruction on each degree, to correct the work of any lodge while visiting, and coordinate instruction with individual lodges when requested, as well as when instructed by the Grand Master to correct or assist any lodge he deems necessary. Worshipful brothers, you may be seated. Brethren of the Grand Lodge, we are about to install your Grand Lodge officers for the ensuing year. Installing Grand Secretary, announce the names of the officers elect.
Grand Master Ralph Woodstrand. Deputy Grand Master Tony Kroll. Senior Grand Warden Dayton Berg. Junior Grand Warden Foster Solon. Grand Treasurer Frank Spivak. Grand Secretary Keith Ryerson.
Brethren, you have heard the names of the Grand Lodge officers elect. If any of you know aught why any of them should not be installed, let him speak now or forever after be silent. Hearing no objection, I will proceed. Most worshipful Grand Marshal, present the Grand Master elect to the east.
Most worshipful Grand Master, it is my honor to present to you our distinguished brother, Ralph Woodstrand, to be installed as Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Minnesota for the ensuing year, and he now declares himself ready for installation.
All rise. Let us pray. Grand Chaplain.
Almighty Creator of the universe, be with our brother as he takes this important step in his Masonic journey. Enable him so to rule that he may keep in view the best interests of the lodges and brotherhood committed to his charge. As he is about to enter upon these new and responsible duties, enable him so to discharge them as to win all hearts. Inspire him to live by the words you have sent through your prophet Micah. He has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, love kindness, and to work humbly with your God. Amen.
So mote it be.
Most worshipful brother, place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me your official obligation. I solemnly promise, upon the honor of a Mason, that in the office of Grand Master of Masons, I will, to the best of my ability, strictly comply with the Constitution, laws, rules, and regulations of the Grand Lodge of Ancient, Free, and Accepted Masons of Minnesota, and all other ancient Masonic usages, so far as they shall come to my knowledge, and that I will enforce a strict obedience to the same by all subject to my authority. Most worshipful brother, having thus solemnly pledged yourself to the faithful discharge of your duties as the ruler of the craft in Minnesota during the ensuing year, I now with great pleasure invest you with the insignia of your office. Let me congratulate you, most worshipful brother, on the honor of being raised from the level of equality to the high station of Grand Master of Masons of Minnesota. We look up with confidence to a brother whose person is endeared to us by the love of the fraternity, which is sanctified by the experience of many revolving years. May the Father of light, of life, and of love invest you with his Colcast gifts and give you wisdom to perform acceptably the important duties which you are this day called upon to discharge. May his protecting care keep you from falling. And when you come to lay aside the emblem of your authority, may it be with the consciousness of having faithfully discharged your duty to Masonry, to the lodges under your care, and to your brethren. And late, very late in life, may you be transferred from the fading honors of an earthly lodge to the mansions prepared for the faithful in another and better word. I now present you with this gavel, the emblem of your authority, and welcome you to the east of the Grand Lodge of Minnesota, and ask the privilege of being the first to assure you my fidelity and obedience. All Minnesota Masons, please rise. I now hail, salute, and proclaim you Grand Master of Masons in Minnesota. Most worshipful Grand Master, behold your brethren. Brethren, behold your Grand Master, and unite with me in giving him the grand honors on my cue.
I will ask everybody to please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everybody will please be seated.
That's it. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Rather than my talk at this time, I will save any remarks I have till the end of this ceremony, and I will turn the gavel back to you, most worshipful Grand Master. Past, of course.
Yes.
Because you're not going to get my hat. And ask if you will finish the installation of officers.
Thank you, Grand Master. Grand Marshal, Will all the elected and appointed Grand Lodge officers please rise? You will each place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me your official obligation. I solemnly promise. Upon the honor of a Mason. That I will serve this Grand Lodge. In the office to which I have been chosen. And will perform all the duties. Pertaining thereto. To the best of my ability. Please be seated. Grand Marshal, would you please present our Deputy Grand Master? Right Worshipful Brother Tony Kroll.
Most worshipful Grand Master, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our worthy brother Tony Kroll to be installed as Deputy Grand Master for the ensuing year.
Right Worshipful Brother, the office to which you have been elected is one of great dignity and much importance. In the absence of the Grand Master from the communication of the Grand Lodge or from the limits of his jurisdiction, you are invested with his powers and may exercise his prerogatives in presiding over the craft. In his presence, you are to assist him with your counsel and cooperation. Let our laws be your constant study, that you may be ever ready to exercise the functions of that more exalted office to which you are so liable to be called. I now, with much pleasure, invest you with your jewel. And congratulate you upon assuming a seat on the right of the Grand Master in the East.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I present our worthy brother Dayton Berg to be installed as Senior Grand Warden for the ensuing year.
Right Worshipful Brother, by the suffrages of your brethren, you have been elected their Senior Grand Warden, and I now invest you with the jewel of your office. Be assiduous in the performance of your duties so that you may be a strength and support to the Grand Master. In the absence of your superior officers, you will have supreme command, while in your presence position, look well to the west.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I present to you our worthy brother Foster Solom to be installed as Junior Grand Warden for the ensuing year.
Right Worshipful Brother, your brethren have shown their confidence in your fidelity by electing you their Junior Grand Warden, and I now invest you with the jewel of your office. Your previous devotion to the duties of Freemasonry is a sufficient guarantee that you will be a vigilant warden. Look well to the south.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I present our worthy brother, Frank Spivak, to be installed as Grand Treasurer for the ensuing year.
Right worshipful brother, you have been elected to the responsible office of Grand Treasurer, and I now invest you with the jewel of your office. It is your duty to safely guard the funds of the Grand Lodge entrusted to your keeping and pay them out only by order of the Grand Master and with the consent of the Grand Lodge. This is an important trust, and your unimpeached integrity satisfies me that the trust is wisely reposed. Your regard for the fraternity and your good name will prompt you to the faithful discharge of the duties of your office.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I present our worthy brother, Keith Ryerson, to be installed as Grand Secretary for the ensuing year.
Right worshipful brother, you have been elected to the important office of Grand Secretary, and I now invest you with the jewel of your office. It is your duty to receive all monies due the Grand Lodge and promptly pay them to the Grand Treasurer, to observe all the proceedings of the Grand Lodge, and to make a fair record of what is proper to be written, to conduct the correspondence of the Grand Lodge, and to act as a medium of intercourse between the Grand Master and the craft. In the discharge of these extensive duties, let your carriage and behavior be marked by that promptitude and discretion that will at once reflect credit on yourself and honor of the Grand Lodge which you represent.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I present to you our worthy brother, Andrew Niemeyer, to be installed as Grand Lodge Education Officer for the ensuing year.
Worshipful brother, you have been appointed as the Grand Lodge Education Officer, and I now invest you with the jewel of your office. We are reminded that no Mason can possess the philosophy or inculcate the tenets of Masonry without sound education and lifelong learning. By your assistance and encouragement, you will help the brethren of lifelong learning all degrees to study and enjoy ancient craft masonry. Your place in Grand Lodge is in the east on the immediate left of the Grand Master.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I present our worthy brother, Martin Meldal, to be installed as Grand Orator for the ensuing year.
Worshipful brother, you have been appointed to the office of Grand Orator, and I now invest you with the jewel of your office. Your reputation as a wise and accomplished Freemason has designated you for this mark of merit and distinction. Be it your constant care to maintain the confidence and respect of your brethren, which you now possess. Your place in the Grand Lodge is in the east, on the right of the Deputy Grand Master.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I present to you our worthy brothers, Robert Davis and Sean Carrick, to be installed as senior deacon and junior grand deacon for the ensuing year.
Worshipful brethren, you have been appointed senior and junior grand deacons, and I now invest you with the jewels of your office. And the rods of your positions as emblems of your authority. You will attend upon the Grand Master and Grand Wardens and serve as their proxies in the active duties of the Grand Lodge. Let vigilance and discretion acute you in the performance of your duties.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I present our worthy brother, Ralph Johansson, to be installed as Grand Marshal for the ensuing year.
Worshipful brother, you've been appointed Grand Marshal, and I now invest you with the jewel of your office. You will represent the grand officers for installation, make all proclamations directed by the Grand Master, arrange and conduct the processions of the Grand Lodge according to the prescribed forms, and preserve order therein. Skill and precision are essentially necessary to the faithful discharge of these duties. Your place is in front of and to the left of the east.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I present our worthy brother Matthew Curry to be installed as Grand Standard Bearer for the ensuing year.
Worshipful brother, it is your duty to carry and uphold the banner of the Grand Lodge on occasions of ceremony and public processions. Receive the jewel of your office. And let it remind you that you are never to part with the standard when under your care. While you have life to defend it, your place is in front of and to the right of the east.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I present our worthy brothers Charles Brust and Bruce Carson to be installed as Senior and Junior Grand Steward for the ensuing year.
Worshipful brethren, you have been appointed Grand Stewards, and I now invest you with the jewels of your office. and the white rods at your stations as emblems of your position. It is your duty to provide for the comfort and convenience of the members of the Grand Lodge when in session, and to assist the Grand Deacons and other officers in the performance of their duties.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I present our worthy brother George Downs to be installed as Grand Sword Bearer for the ensuing year.
Worshipful brother, the sword which you will bear in all processions of the Grand Lodge is the time-honored symbol of justice and authority. It is also the guardian and protector of the standard of the Grand Lodge. Be faithful to your trust. You will be invested in the jewel of your office, which will remind you of your duty. Your place is at the left of the Grand Marshal.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I present our worthy brother Grant Lillevold to be installed as Grand Pursuivant for the ensuing year.
Worshipful brother, you've been appointed Grand Pursuivant, and I now invest you with the jewel of your office. You are the messenger and herald of the Grand Lodge, and your place is near the inner door, where you will receive all reports from the Grand Tyler and announce the names and Masonic rank of all who desire admission, communicating the same to the junior Grand Deacon. In Masonic processions, you will precede the Grand Chaplain, carrying the three great lights.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I present our worthy brother Joseph Kivens to be installed as Grand Tyler for the ensuing year.
Worshipful brother, you have been appointed Grand Tyler, and I now invest you with the jewel of your office. You're to guard against the approach of columns and eavesdroppers, and to suffer none to pass or repass, but such as are duly qualified. It is your duty to guard the doors of the Grand Lodge on the outside, to report to the Grand Pursuivant who desire to be admitted, to have the Grand Lodge rooms in order for business and properly heated and lighted, to take care of the Grand Lodge jewels, aprons, and other property during the session of the Grand Lodge, and to discharge such other duties as may be required of you by the Grand Lodge or Grand Master. Your punctual attendance is essentially necessary at every communication. You will now be conducted to your post of duty. Brother Grand Marshal, make the proclamation.
I am directed to proclaim and do hereby proclaim that the Grand Master and other officers of the Grand Lodge of Minnesota have duly been installed into their regular stations and places in ample form. All interested will take due notice and govern themselves accordingly.
Brethren of Grand Lodge, please rise. please unite with me in giving the grand honors.
Yes, please. Please be seated. It says remarks. I've got plenty. I never figured out that Goldilocks thing about just right. So for some, it'll be way too long and others will be way too short, and you didn't get a long enough nap. But first thing I have to do is to thank those people who are, and depending on how you look at, either responsible or were so generous to get me to this point in my Masonic career. To Most Worshipful Brother James Christensen, who appointed me to the line. And for those that don't know, I told him no. And then his wife called and said, "You said the wrong word. The word was yes." Well, you must figure out the rest of the story because I'm here. So Jim has been a great mentor, and I kind of kid him because in our Masonic history, when I was master of my lodge the first time, his father was my junior warden. So we go back historically quite a bit. Also like to thank what I consider my mentors among with Jim, Most Worshipful Brother Ray Christensen, who appointed Jim onto the line, and then Most Worshipful Brother Eric Nietenbeek. All of us are part of that northern Minnesota legacy of leadership and hardworking talent, and continue to work in our unique ways and talents to make Masonry better. But that's not the only ones. There's also Dave Bashore, Most Worshipful Brother Dave Bashore, who is also part of this group, and Most Worshipful Brother Terry Tilton, another part of this group. And we all have unique skills. And I also told Hibbing, when they said, "We're going to put your picture up next to one of the other pictures of their people who are Grand Masters of Masons of Minnesota," so that they would have 3 people pictured there, one of whom is my father. And I said, they're just trying to keep up with Biwavic, which is lodge about this size compared to, because we have 3 pictures up too. I also need to thank all of the officers who said that they would be willing to serve this year. All the officers, including ADs, DRs, coordinators, and line officers and appointed officers. They are all absolutely necessary to the work of Masonry. And of course, this can never happen unless the craft elects us to this position. And so therefore, we must thank the craft for our opportunity to serve, not to rule. We are here to serve the craft. The second thing I'd like to do is talk a little bit about Masonry to me. I see Masonry as very, very complex. We learn things and then find out, just like the poetry that I was taught in school, that, well, it says this, but it means this. And if you look deeper, it also means this. And there is this hidden meaning besides, and I could never follow that. And there is a statement in Masonry that says, that you have to be able to understand before your eyes can behold the beauty of Masonry. And that is true. One of the themes that we have used over the past several years has been civility. And civility is important, but I only think that's halfway. This is just personal on my part. Because one of the tenets of the institution that I think is critical to our being successful is that we are a fraternity of brothers. And one of those tenets is more like a gem, the way I look at it. You can take a mass of material, compress it, work it, put it together until you end up with an ugly looking rock. But as the craft works on that rock, eventually it starts to shine and the light is diffused throughout everything, and we end up with a gem. And that gem could be a diamond. Well, then that kernel of truth that we get in Masonry is that we are brothers. And one of those tenets, and I always go back to the actual wording that we used when we teach this, is that one of our main tenets is brotherly love. And what it says is this: by the exercise of brotherly love, we are taught to regard the whole human species as one family, the high and low, the rich and poor, who, as created by one almighty parent and inhabitants of the same planet, are to aid, support, and protect each other. And in that process, we unite people of every country, sect, and opinion, and conciliate true friendship among those who might otherwise have remained at a distance. We are not meant to be the same, but we are meant to see that we are all different, and we bring different facets to our understanding of what we need to be able to let our light shine among our fellow creatures. And that is the essence of brotherly love, not just civility, but a love that goes beyond that and holds us together, not just talking about it. The third thing is personal to me, in my travels to Masonry, and I'm in a unique place at this point, and I call it bittersweet in this respect. My first Grand Lodge session was in the Masonic Temple, downtown St. Paul, which of course is no longer there. And it happened to be April 2nd, 1971. And I was there, and if I were standing on the stage in the east, I would have been sitting right up about there, and I had the honor of playing the organ for my father's installation. So if you're looking at years, I am 50 years from when my father was installed. Never expected to be here, never expected to be a Grand Master. And so I look at it as bittersweet and absolutely an honor. And so therefore, to all, thank you for both coming and sharing with me in this occasion. Thank you. And I know how that works, as soon as the Grand Master says anything, everybody stands up and goes, yeah, Ray. I just hope you understand where I'm coming from and why I think that this is important and what it means to me. I would ask that most worshipful brother Ethan Seberg come to the podium, please. Most worshipful brother Ethan, since when you left office, I stole your collar, which you will fix on me because you can see and I can't. I stole your collar, I stole your apron, but I give you this jewel that you may wear as an emblem of your success and time as Grand Master of Masons in Minnesota.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
And that's only the first thing. Secondly, and I think you will understand this as well as anybody, that for years you speak as a Mason talking to people. And then you get into the Grand Lodge, whether it's an ADDR or any of the rest of them, and you say, I speak for the Grand Master, or I speak on behalf of the Grand Master. Well, then when you get to be the Grand Master, you go back to the beginning and you say, I speak for the Masons of Minnesota. A completely different point of view. And then after you get to that, of course, you go back to being a Mason, you can speak for yourself, and that's it. That's all the authority you have. But we still call you most worshipful. I will also tell you that we talked to your wife, your father, your mother, and said what kind of gift would be appropriate for a man from the officers of your Grand Lodge while you were serving as Grand Master. And they all said, he doesn't need more stuff to bring home. And I can understand that. So what we did do is we made a collection and have given in your name to the Masonic Children's Hospital $500. And congratulations, and we are proud to do that for you and in your name. And if you would like to say, this is the last time I'm giving the, okay.
There's really nothing I can say other than thank you, because that's all that'll come out. Bless you all. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Well, most worshipful Grand Master, I have a presentation for you.
I knew it.
Yeah, well, it's in this. Both in Bloomington and remotely with the past Grand Masters of Minnesota, please rise. This is the jewel of Minnesota Masonry. Would you please hold it?
Here, I can even hold it up.
Thank you. Presented by the craft, to be worn by the Grand Master of Minnesota in the performance of his duties. Its weight is a reminder both of his obligations and of the source of his authority. The leather is battle worn, indicating that the intense and humbled service of your predecessors is expected of all those who would wear it. The jewel has amazing clarity and value, denoting the clarity of thought demanded of you and the value the craft places in your decisions and leadership. The badge is tarnished, not only from the errors of each of its wearers, but also from the many tears that they have shed for the craft. The past Grand Masters join me in the admonition to wear this badge of office with pride and honor, acting with kindness, and above all, being humble and fair to all. Godspeed, my dear brother.
Thank you. You may be seated. The program says, are there any other presentations that would like to be made? And I see Jim reaching behind him, so that probably means yes.
Whenever you want to do it now.
You tell me when you want it open.
Nope, it's yours.
Me?
It's in your hands now.
Let me ask you this, because I've been here before. And you have to understand that as a profession, I worked with 7th and 8th graders. And if you ever got a present from them at anything, you never opened it in public. Never. Because you could see the smirks and you didn't know what kind of stunt they were pulling. Oh, yeah, this is much more fun. I can talk while I'm doing this.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. What's that? Save the paper.
And the card.
And the card.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's been interesting with students because they always had nicknames for everybody. And for those that haven't figured it out, I know I've told some of the people in Grand Lodge line that I had a, thank you, have a nice, that I had a nickname from all of my students when I was teaching, and I don't know why they ever came up with it, but my nickname was Stump. They were not very nice, but they did it with, how can I say, love rather than disdain or making fun of. Because they always knew that if they did that too, I could also come up with plenty of nicknames for them and use them as appropriate time. And I would. So I have something that he thinks I'm going to be traveling with. In case you can't see it, I can step over here and not fall off. So you know what I got. And thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'll let you take care of things that I'm knocking all over.
Okay.
Where you throw it on here. Yes. I would like to make a couple announcements then. On Saturday, April 17th, the Odd Shrine are having a reception for their potentate, who happens to be Most Worshipful Brother Jim, and they have invited the Grand Master, so that would be me. And so it says ladies are also invited. The social hour begins at 4:30 and dinner at 5:30, cash bar. They have to have reservations. And so if you are interested in going, you can call the Odd Shriners office to make reservations. They say that the attire for the event is formal or business attire. So if you're interested in going, that would be at the Odd Temple in Hermantown. And everybody is invited who wants to go, but you must make reservations. Did I miss anything, sir? No. Yes, I was, that was my last thing, but I actually did hear what you said. Did everybody hear what she said? Yeah, she said, if you forget your family, you're dead meat. Okay. And she said it with one word. The last thing I would like to do before we finish the ceremony is introduce those that are my family, and I'm talking about direct relatives here, sort of Kent. But at this point, I would like to introduce and remember its brotherly love, and this is my sisters and brothers as you were. And with me today is my sister, Betty. If you would stand, Betty, so they know who to talk to downstairs. And then my daughter, Ellen, and her partner, Kent Simmons. And that is my family. So, small family, no jokes. There is nothing else to come before us, I don't think, at this time. So I would like to make sure that I invite you to light snacks downstairs in the Evergreen Room. Everybody is invited. Of course, with the COVID standards going on, if you are eating or drinking, please be seated at a table. Do not be walking around while you are doing that, and everybody is welcome. Have time to talk if you wish. And if there is nothing else, then I declare that the Grand Lodge of Minnesota, Ancient Free and Accepted Masons, Grand Communication for this year is closed. Please see you downstairs.